Привет, ребята, с вами Sasha Rock'n'Roll, вы смотрите Rock'n'Roll TV, и сегодня мы будем беседовать с лидером группы Wednesday 13. Hi Wednesday, glad to see you here. What are your first impressions about Moscow?
This is my first time coming here, and we had to take 2 flights to get here, and we got in, and we were all super tired, but we still went out to Red Square because none of us have ever been here before. So it's amazing, man. It's just it's super cool to go into. I've been touring worldwide for like 11 years, but never been to Russia before, and I've only seen pictures and things like that. So it was just pretty surreal to be surrounded by.
Isn't it true that Moscow is kind of like New York City?
Yeah, a little bit. But different. I don't know. It's weird. I can't really compare it to anywhere I've been in the world. So that's a cool thing. So it will always stand out in my mind now. So.
Okay, can you say something about your very first stage performance? Do you remember it?
My very first stage performance? It was awful. My first appearance was I was 15 years old at my high school. And it was my band, I had just joined this band, and I was the guitar player, and I just played everyone's songs, and it was just not the best, But it was also kind of cool because I was on stage, So when I look back on it, performance-wise, not so good, but
everybody was drunk.
But the idea, of going on stage, I was like, this is great, and. So yeah, but again, some of my earlier shows were good and bad. I have good and bad memories of them.
And do you remember the best show that you ever seen in your life?
The worst show I've ever seen or played?
Seen.
Seen? Worst show I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of awful shows. I don't know if I could actually be specific and pick just one. I don't know.
The last best shows of another bands.
Last best shows. The last good show I saw in America was the Rob Zombie, Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson tour, and so that's always awesome because I'm a big fan of both of those guys as well, and but yeah, as far as bad shows, I've seen some bad ones. I'll just keep quiet about the bad ones I've seen.
And tell me about.
I'm sure I've did some awful shows over the years too. Just want to go. The worst show I ever saw was Wednesday 13. So.
Can you tell me about your influences? Do you remember the first song or maybe first band that you dig?
Oh yeah, my first introduction into music was from my older brother, who collected vinyl, and he was always getting everything from, mainly it was Kiss, and that was the first band that I saw because they looked like superheroes to me, and I was immediately attracted to Kiss, and then.
Gene Simmons or Paul Stanley?
That's a weird pick. I would say back then it was Gene, but as I became a front guy and guitar player, I really admired Paul Stanley because I think he's one of the best frontman guitar players out there because he doesn't stand in one spot. Most guitar players that sing stand like this, and Paul Stanley dances from one side of the stage to the other, and
it's
so
not so easy in their shoes.
No, not at all. And so I always looked up, as when I became a musician and I played guitar and sang, I really looked up to Paul Stanley. So, but again, Kiss was always like they were like Spider-Man or Batman to me, and so that was my first thing. And then I discovered Alice Cooper and Twisted Sister, and those type of bands are the first bands that I liked. But then when I got into music, I really started exploring what those guys were into, and I would go back and listen, or things like that, or I'd hear bands like Motley Crue, and they would talk about David Bowie and talk about Sweet and all that. So I went back and found all my favorite bands' influences, and they became my influences as well. So it's just been a long time, and I'm still learning about bands all the time. There's still, every year I'm finding new bands that I really like. Like in the past 3 or 4 years, one of my favorite new bands, or new to me, is Killing Joke. And they're just a band that, to me, just changed the way I think about music, the way I say when I saw Alice Cooper and Kiss for the first time. So I'm still learning. I like to think of my musical thing is all across the board. It's everything from Stevie Wonder to Slayer. It's and even
different stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's healthy, especially for me, because when you listen to one thing over and over, you start to repeat yourself. And
I know that you did the cover of Motorhead song about Ramones.
Yes.
How Ramones changed your life?
Oh, the Ramones.
Is it a big part of your life?
Absolutely. The Ramones as well. And a lot of people, that call me horror punk or whatever, of course, they would think my favorite would be the Misfits, and I am a huge Misfits fan. But back in the day when I first started playing, what was the early stages of me writing horror punk, I never ever once listened to the Misfits. I never heard them. I took my horror influence from Alice Cooper, and he didn't do it all the time, but he had certain songs and certain things like that. But the Ramones, when I heard the way they did their song, like they had Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Psychotherapy, all these weird,
We're gonna kill that girl.
yeah, 2 minute songs, and when I heard the Ramones, I was like, this is my life now. So it's weird. Like I've balanced Alice Cooper and the Ramones, and I try to put that all into my music. And I even have a song on my last record called "I Want to Be Cremated," which is toward the Ramones. I want to be sedated. So that's so that was the whole thing. But I think I wear my heroes on my sleeve, and I always, I say I wouldn't be here without all the bands we're speaking about right now. They're the reason I exist.
The best rock song in the world, in your opinion, what can you name?
Best rock song in the world. That's a hard one, but I'll just go with Kiss. I'll say "Rock and Roll All Night." That's
every day.
yeah, yes. I mean, there's a million great songs. I couldn't pick just one, but that's the first one that pops in my head. So.
Okay, Wednesday, we got a short blitz for you.
Okay.
Whiskey or vodka?
Whiskey.
Blondes or brunettes?
Brunette.
Punk or glam?
Glunk.
Tits or butts?
Butt.
That's a nice answer.
Yes.
Heaven or hell?
Mm,
That's a stupid question
I don't
for
really
you.
believe in either one, so I'll stay in the middle. Yeah.
Kiss or Alice Cooper?
Alice Cooper.
Do you remember Rock and Roll Radio?
I do remember Rock and Roll Radio.
Thank you, Wednesday.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.